Welcome to Telling the Tale. I'm your host, Mitchell Farley Wolfe, and I'm joined, as per usual, with my co-host, Dustin Jackson. Hey, Dustin, how's it going?
Hey, you know what? It's going pretty good here today. You know, 'tis the season after all.
Yeah, kinda. It's, it is July, but, I gotta tell you, we almost didn't record this episode today. We would have had to wait another week.
You hear this, everybody? You are getting a gift, and how fitting that you get a gift from us this week.
Yeah, so when we were about to record, my little sister came home from the dentist, and they had done some operation, I think, to fix an infection on she had gotten her wisdom teeth pulled previously. And she came home, and we were, like, literally about to sit down and do the episode, and then starts screaming, "It hurts, it hurts, it hurts." Which is a bummer for a lot of reasons, mostly because it hurts, but also because of content. And this is the thing that keeps the lights on in this house, Dustin, so, you know, we had to put a kibosh on that. Is that the kibosh? I don't know how to use that word, actually. I shouldn't use words I don't know.
Used it. No, I think you used it great.
Okay. I'll use it again later.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
You know what else I'm looking forward? I'm looking forward to jumping back into the world of Sam and Max.
Me too. I have legit been excited for this. I love Sam and Max.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, like as friends.
Yeah. I have romantic feelings for Sam and Max, and
that's also cool.
It's allowed.
Yeah.
It's allowed. In the last few weeks with us doing Texas Hold'em and Bone, I've realized how good of a fit Telltale is for this specific franchise. More than probably anything else they'll ever do.
Yeah, I mean, I would think even later down the line when they started doing, like, Walking Dead and stuff, I would still associate them most with, like, Sam and Max.
Yeah, the thing with Walking Dead is that it was directed by two people at Telltale for the first season who I don't believe directed other things before that and also left after that.
Yeah,
so,
that's right. That kind of explains why the others not quite as big of hits as that first season. But don't worry, everyone. We'll get to it sooner or later.
I thought you were going to say, don't worry, we won't do that.
Don't worry, we won't quit before the show's over, hopefully.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, hopefully we won't, but I don't want to make any promises. Who knows?
Yeah, I can't make any guarantees, but hopefully we won't peace out before the last episode and have to be replaced.
Yeah, I believe this is our 10th episode.
Our 10th anniversary.
Yeah, so we're now 1/14th of the way there.
Wow.
Doesn't that feel like nothing? Doesn't that feel like we haven't accomplished anything so far?
That's like the absolute smallest chunk you could possibly do. It don't get much smaller than that.
Yeah, that's true. So, we're talking about Ice Station Santa. This is the first episode of the second season of Sam and Max. The second season of Sam and Max was originally called Season 2, but has since been renamed Sam and Max Beyond Time and Space. That said, the version I played, still in-game, called itself Sam and Max Season 2. So,
did you play it on Steam? Or
no.
Did you just download it? Did you download them from the Telltale website?
So, this is another one where just logging into my old, founded in 2008 Telltale account, I was just able to find a version of Sam and Max Season 2 that I had previously bought.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's like finding an old preserved dinosaur fossil.
It's the same thing I did for Telltale Texas Hold'em. I just had it.
It just worked out.
It just worked out. There are a lot of reasons, I think, that I would have... If not doing this podcast, I would have been very fine and preferred waiting until Skunk Ape makes their remaster.
Right.
But I thought that a lot of the oldness I felt playing the Bone games especially just wasn't there. for this game. I didn't
Yeah,
feel it felt like another, not console generation because it's still the same hardware and everything. But it felt like a move up in terms of fidelity and what the game's able to do.
right. By this point, they had a whole season of Sam and Max under their belts as well as those Bone games. So you can really tell they're kind of figuring. They've kind of got it figured out. They're, I don't want to say they just nail it perfectly at this point, but they're experienced.
I'm glad that you brought up the fact that they have a season of Sam and Max under their belt because I looked up to see how long it was between seasons 1 and 2. 7 months.
Mm-hmm. That's not too long. You would expect maybe like a year, maybe a little over a year before the next one, but no, 7 months is a very small time frame.
Yeah, between Bright Side of the Moon and this game, it was April of 2007 and November 8th, 2007 when this one came out. So really just...
That's crazy.
It doesn't even really feel like a season 2. It just feels like seasons 1 and 2 are one thing that had a hiatus in the middle.
Yeah, it kind of feels like season 1A, there was such a small gap between... The fact that they're the same year makes it feel even smaller. Like, I feel like if it were 7 months, but like season 1 ended at like the tail end of 2017, and then like season 2 started early 2018, it would still feel like a bigger gap. But no, you can just say they both came out in 2007.
Well, to put into context the 7-month period, that's the same amount of time between the 2 Bone episodes.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't really know if I feel like that makes that too long or like, I don't know, whatever. But it does feel like they really could have waited a couple more months on this if they wanted to.
Well, I feel like they probably couldn't have given the subject matter of this episode.
Well, I bet they could have waited at least one more month because it did come out in November.
That's true.
But as you're alluding to, it is a Christmas episode. How do you feel about Christmas things?
I love it. I love Christmas specials. Sam and
too.
Max did a Christmas special on the TV show as well. So this is technically the second Sam and Max Christmas special.
My actual relationship with Christmas is that I think it's fun. And I do it for family mostly, but for the holidays, I don't get so jazzed up about it anymore in my adult life. That said, holiday fiction, holiday specials, anything you want to do with Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny, yeah, I'm in. I'm way in.
Yeah, I think it's because
great.
it feels so much more special, like a bigger deal when fictional things do it. You're like, oh, it's the Christmas special? Oh, I'm not going to want to miss this one. They're going to go all out with the Christmas theming. I mean, we can't save Santa Claus IRL. That's not something we can do. So Christmas, it's fun and fine and cool, but like, you're not going to get a Yuletide Christmas adventure.
Yeah, there's something to fiction like Sherlock Holmes or Batman where you can just do an archetype. Like, the character doesn't necessarily have a backstory anymore because you can do a traditional backstory like Sherlock Holmes growing up in like 1800s London and then do the whole very traditional thing, or you can do modern day Sherlock Holmes. You can do Elementary, you can do the Robert Downey Jr., whatever that was, you can do a comedy version. And that's still all, we've grown to accept those all as valid takes on Sherlock Holmes. Same thing with Batman. And same thing with Santa Claus. And I really like just comparing and contrasting different takes on the story of Santa Claus, different Santa Claus mythologies presented in movies, because it seems to be something that directors and writers for movies and games have a special ability to make their own. with Santa Claus because everyone knows it, so a lot of the legwork is already done. But if you want to change any part of it, you're totally allowed to. And I think that's cool. And
That's true.
Yeah, I'm glad to see Santa in this for that reason.
Yeah, you can get real creative with it. It's kind of you know, I feel like a lot of things do kind of go down the easy traditional route with Santa Claus. You know, it's the fat guy with the presents, the ho ho ho. But you can branch out and do interesting stuff. Like this version of Santa. This isn't just your typical Santa in this episode. This is, I mean, he's along those lines, but it's still like he's really short. He's angry. He's just this angry man.
Yeah.
and I like that you can just have, this isn't just Santa Claus, this is the Santa Claus of Sam and Max.
Right. This is a very specific Santa Claus. Their world does have a Santa Claus on the North Pole with elves. And he does deliver toys. He does a lot of the exact same things that every Santa Claus does, but he has a very particular personality. Speaking of the writers and directors, let's talk about those because we usually do. I looked through all of season 2 ahead of time. The writers and designers don't change episode per episode.
So instead of like the first season, it's just the same people for every episode this time?
Yeah, I think the first episode of the first season, it was just Brendan Q. Ferguson and Dave Grossman, who seemed to be this power team within Telltale, especially at this time. But this season, the season is credited to... They have this under the category of writers, designers in the credits. And I wonder if there's more particulars I can find out that aren't just listed in the credits. But it's Brendan Q. Ferguson, Dave Grossman, Heather Logus, Chuck Jordan, Ian Dallas, Jeff Lester, and then also they've given a writer-designer credit to Steve Purcell, who may or may not actually be involved.
Yeah, it's possible they put him under design, as in like he's created and designed this world and these main characters.
Right. Additionally, though, Dave Grossman specifically gets the title Design Director, at least on this episode. Now, I didn't check to see if that stays the same episode to episode, so he may just be the design director of the entire season, but at least on this episode, he's the one most in charge.
Yeah, I'm guessing... Yeah, I would assume, because that's a lot more writers than in the first season. So I wonder if he was kind of like the head of things, but then everyone was still free to throw out, their own jokes or puzzle ideas and stuff.
Right. So, the episode itself, think back to about a month ago when we covered Bright Side of the Moon. What do you think of this episode compared to the later half of season 1?
Compared to the later half of season 1, that's tough because it kind of felt like things were really ramping up in that second half of season 1, while this is, just starting things out. Personally, I would say this is one of the more iconic episodes throughout the Sam and Max series. But I think that's also partially because this was the episode that they really... I don't remember if they gave this one out for free or not, but I specifically remember on the DVD for the Sam and Max TV series, this was the episode that had a demo. You could put in one of the discs of the Sam and Max DVD set, and it would give you a demo of this episode.
Wait, so the DVD of the cartoon had a demo of this episode?
Yeah.
When did it come out?
Like 2007, 2008, maybe?
Wild.
Yeah. I think it was just a thing like you put the disc in your CD drive, and then I guess go into the folder and it would have like an installable demo file or something. I don't know. I never tried it. But it's cool that you could just get that from getting the DVD. So this kind of felt like, I don't know if it was just because it was the only episode of season 2 out. I would need to look into it more, but it kind of feels like this season's Abe Lincoln Must Die, the episode that
Okay.
they use as kind of a sampler. But again, I don't know if it's specifically because they thought this was their best one, or if it was just because it was the only one they had done at the time.
I think it might also
"Here's what
be
we're doing."
because season 1 has a lot of episodes that there are through lines between them, of course, and they do, of course, culminate in the finale. So the finale needs to be last, and most of the other things mostly need to be in order, but you can play season 1 out of order and it's fine. Season 2, we haven't talked about anything later in season 2 yet, so I guess we can't allude to this, but we can say that it's a lot more serial. It's a lot more... I don't think you can play this one out of order as much.
Right, agreed. And, this was a long-winded way for me to say I liked this episode a lot. I thought this episode was very funny. We were talking earlier in the show. I thought this one had a lot of very good lines, to the point where I was like, oh man, I think this might be too much.
I also really like this episode. I asked you if how it compared to the later half of season 1, because I think this is very much a descendant of the later half of season 1 in terms of how it's formatted, its design ideology, all of that stuff. Because we talked during our season 1 coverage about how they seem to be like going from format to format, looking for something that really stuck. And they found it with episode 4, which was a very adventure-heavy, go to a place. It doesn't really feel like you're a freelance police solving a case anymore, which I think was what they thought it would be. Because that's what episodes 1, 2, and 3 are all about. They're all about solving a case. You technically still have that excuse as to what you're doing. You're still solving a case technically, but it feels so much more of just you're put in this weird environment. It's a whole new environment. It's a whole new scenario. There's a really weird bad guy in like every episode, this one included. So if I were to compare this episode to any one other episode, I would probably say that it feels a lot like, I guess, Reality 2.0. I think there's some Reality 2.0 vibes in here.
Interesting.
Other than the gameplay mechanic of Reality 2.0 transitioning between the two worlds, there's nothing like that in here. But there's just a couple things that make me feel like they've taken the idea of going to this foreign place, being pitted against this almost demonic-like presence. In Reality 2.0 was the internet. And that's actually the episode where the character that we will see in this episode, the shambling corporate presence, debuted.
It was like a switch was flicked in my head right as soon as I made that realization. I was like, whoa, wait a minute!
Yeah, I don't think I realized that at the time when I first played this episode. I think that was a new realization, circa 2021.
Yeah, same. Just now is the first time I was like, that's like the thing from the other one.
Yeah, I wonder if Telltale would be disappointed to find out that we didn't even get it the first time. They were like,
don't worry,
shambling corporate presence, like in the text adventure.
Now I get it. I think as long as we get it now, how mad can they be?
True.
One thing I had in my notes specifically was, this episode feels more like you are playing through a story. You're watching a story play out more than even season 1 did. It didn't necessarily feel like a collection of puzzles that have a story to go along with it. It kind of felt like this episode in particular, it felt more like the story was the main presence, just because like you have the part where you have to get the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and then you go into the part where you have to help the spirits. I don't know, to me it just felt like the story elements were a lot stronger. Obviously, not to say the story elements were not strong in the other episodes, but just something about this episode in particular made me feel like the story is the big thing here. The puzzles are what drive the story, rather than the game being more about the puzzles.
I totally agree, and I think something to keep in mind when we play through these, well, every game that Telltale makes, is that they were a company founded to make one genre of game that wasn't being made by very many people anymore when they started out. Their express purpose was to make these point-and-click adventures, and they became a company over time that never made them again, deciding to only focus on the extremely narrative bend to some of their games. So
yeah,
even just in a small way, going from season 1 to season 2 of Sam and Max, which are really two halves of one larger game, if you want to think about it that way, two arcs of one game, maybe, we're already seeing a transition to more story-based things.
Yeah, it's kind of this weird thing. I can't even quite put into words exactly how it works, but that's just how it came off to me. Was it felt more like we are progressing a story rather than a story being an excuse for the gameplay.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of the story, do you want to start talking about it?
I'd love to start talking about it.
Give it a shot.
Oh boy, I'm on the spot now. So
you
our story begins.
Love to. I don't know what to tell you.
You're right. I walked right into that one. So our story begins with Sam and Max in their office when they notice that their goldfish, Mr. Spatula, has an evil aura to him. He's very evil-esque. But that doesn't last that long because he gets blasted by one of Max's Mametron 9000s just outside the window. What's interesting about this is that this doesn't necessarily tie into the episode at all.
No,
but
not
it
at all.
does. But it does kind of act as a tutorial, I guess, since it's technically the start of the new season. So it's just a small little puzzle telling you, here's how you'll figure out puzzles. So you go down, you talk to the Mametron 9000. You have to make him think about... correct me if I'm wrong, because I did this part last night and I was very tired. You need to make him think about, free will and choice, right? You get him stuck in some sort of logic loop.
So it's actually not that, because if you'd think that, that's sort of the trope of a robot having its head explode because it has to think of a question that doesn't have a strict answer like that. But it seems like Mametron 9000's got free will totally figured out. Sam goes, "Do you believe in free will?" And Mametron goes, "No, not really. I think we all just do what we're programmed to do." And it seems to check out. It seems legit. But if Sam says some bullshit, it's always from a song. His questions are always from songs. He says something like, "Why do birds suddenly appear every time you are near?" And then Mametron goes, "Do they? That's I haven't considered a being that could only exist due to the proximity of another target. I have to think about that."
That's right. Yeah, you get him thinking about something, and then you go back up into your office and just reach through and you pull out the wind-up part from his back so he shuts down. Not really like a hard puzzle at all. I guess it is just to kind of ease you into it a little, because it's very easy.
Yeah, I would say the Mametron having destroyed Sam and Max's entire city block is the B story of this episode.
And even then, it's not like a huge B story, but it does give an excuse as to why Sybil's office is not so much able to be used.
Yeah. You have people at the new diner that's opened up, and we'll talk about that. But Sybil is in there, and you ask her "Hey, how are you doing?" She's like, "Yeah, fine." I can't complain. She should.
Yeah, so I think this all happened while she's in the diner. She has no idea that her office has been relocated by a robot.
True. I'm glad that the Maintron 9000 was nice enough to maintain all of the important buildings and get rid of all of the non-important buildings.
Yeah, take that, Sybil.
Yeah. Well, no, Sybil's building is there. It's moved. There's
true.
other buildings that are just completely gone.
That's true. I forgot. I don't think... It's been so long since I have played Season 2 that I don't remember if you actually ever go in Sybil's office.
Well, you don't in this episode, at least.
Yeah, we'll see. Sybil Office Watch 2021. We'll all find out together with our audience.
I think that's actually an interesting point, because if that happened in Season 1, I would have imagined, like, oh, they didn't make that area yet. But we know they have a whole season, Sybil's office area, that if they want to reuse, they can. And that comes up with the characters a lot in this episode, because over the course of this episode, we see all the soda poppers, we see Santa Claus, we see new elf characters, we see a demon, we see Sybil, we see Abraham Lincoln's head, we see a new custodian of the diner named Stinky, and we see Bosco. That's a huge cast of characters. Oh, of course, Sam and Max as well, and Jimmy Two Teeth, and...
The elves.
Yeah, I said
Jimmy's
the elves,
family?
Dustin.
Jimmy's family? Oh, yeah, you already said elves. I meant the other elves.
Oh, yeah, I was talking about one elf, and then you got the other one? Okay, good.
Yeah, don't worry, I got you.
And then the Maintron 9000. That's a lot of characters. That's quite a few characters. And I think they get away with doing that because all of those characters except the elves and the other elves, Santa Claus and the demon, are reused.
Right.
So they can just do that. They don't need to go through the trouble of creating more characters. And I
think something about the way this game was originally released in the episodic format. I think that it works even better that way, because like it'd be one thing if you went to a stage and just all the same characters were in every level.
Yeah.
One right after another. Like, you and I have both played the video game Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts.
True.
And that's just exactly what that is. That's one of the things I dislike about that game.
Oh, yeah, I guess that is true.
Yeah, it's just every stage, it's just the same cast every time. But in this game, since it's episodic, I feel like that's not necessarily a factor, because, like, you know, it'll be a month before you see Bosco, Sybil, and the Soda Poppers again. You'll be like, oh, hey, there's Bosco and Sybil. I'm happy to see them again. So, yeah, it kind of works out better that they can reuse assets in this way.
Right, I totally agree. So, once you stop the Maintron 9000, you look at its foot and it says, from Santa Claus, which is how you know it's from Santa Claus. And then you got to go to the North Pole to figure out what gives, why Santa Claus is being so mean.
Yeah, Sam and Max can just drive to the North Pole.
Their DeSoto is putting in some work recently. They drove to the moon.
Yeah, that's true. They could just drive to the moon. They can drive to the North Pole. This is a very good car.
Moon seems harder than North Pole to me. So
that's true.
So once you get there, you'll see the soda poppers waiting outside, and I love the reaction that Sam and Max have to them, because they're like, oh, these fucking guys. They're here again.
Didn't we just see these guys?
These guys are...
We weren't even that happy to see them the first time.
These guys are the worst. They said that they were mad at Santa for something or other as well, but they didn't want to go inside because they heard gunshots inside. So of course Sam and Max go right inside. And Santa's just sticking his hand out the door with the gun, just trying to shoot blindly.
Just firing wildly into the crowd of elves.
Yeah. What do you think of this section? What do you think of the reveal of what the North Pole actually looks like?
I mean, they don't get too crazy with how it looks, but
they don't.
One thing I will say, I love the music for Santa's Workshop. It's one of my favorite tracks in all of Sam and Max.
I have a note here that says the music feels like a step up already. Just going to the North Pole, that's got its own. That one's more atmospheric, but it's still great. And then Inside the Workshop is just it's an Emerson Johnson classic already.
Yeah, I mean, I would really need to like listen to more music with the specific purpose of figuring out my favorites. But I think that would definitely be one of them.
So there's a thing you got to do to get in Santa's office. Because if you just try to walk in, he'll try to shoot you. So don't do that. It involves a whole puzzle with elf tears. That is great. You have to make an elf cry, and the way you do it is just by convincing him that he doesn't exist.
I love that. I love that you just convince this elf that he is a not thing.
Yeah. He's like, well, first you try to say Santa Claus doesn't exist, and then he's like, yeah, but he's just over there. And
I like how that he can say that for Santa, but he can't use that defense against himself.
Yeah. They say Santa Claus doesn't exist, and then he says, but if Santa Claus doesn't exist, that means elves can't exist either. And then Sam says, that's what makes this so difficult. And at that point, the elf is fully convinced that both the concept of elves and himself don't exist. And you try to make it up in the end, saying, no, we just lied. You do exist. And the elf says, nice try, but I don't believe in you guys either. That's lasting damage. That's a real thing Sam and Max just did to that elf.
I mean, to be fair, I think it's on the elf himself for falling for it.
That's true. In Santa's office, you can climb in through the chimney via a bunch of puzzle stuff, and as long as you don't go close enough to him, he won't notice you're there. You can find instructions on performing an exorcism. You need the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse action figures. You need to set them around a magnetic pole. You happen to be close to the North Pole. And you need to play a song called the Friendly Demon Song, which Santa has on vinyl in his collection, which is great. I like that Santa has a vinyl collection.
Yeah, you remember how Telltale used to do the case files for seasons 1 and 2?
Yeah.
So the case file for season 2, I missed out on the one for 1, but I have the case file for season 2, and it comes with a miniature CD of the Friendly Demon Song.
That's great. Yeah, I think I might still have that CD. I do have the season 2 case file somewhere around here. I bet it's in a box, though. I bet it's in a taped up storage box that I can't access.
Just like Sam and Max's real case files.
Yeah. They don't want to access those at all. So now you're on the hunt, and it's only at this point where you're allowed to go back to the street. Because I tried going back to the street earlier, before I got the exorcism instructions, and I was not allowed to go back.
Wow.
They wanted you to solve all of that North Pole stuff before you went back to the straight and narrow.
Interesting. Is that the first time they've really done that? Because I think even in the seasons where you don't start on the street, you can still go back there. You can still choose to go back there. I don't remember if you're just locked out of it for a while.
Yeah, I don't recall. I don't recall if that's ever happened in season 1. If it did, I didn't notice.
Yeah, that's true. They hit it very well.
Yeah, I would argue that they didn't have to do that.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think it necessarily hurts the episode, but it is an interesting choice.
Oh, you know what? Here's a guess as to what happened. It might have been that the versions of Stinky's Diner and Bosco's Place still the earliest you can see them in the episode, they already have a horseman doll, like to find there. So maybe you need to do the exorcism stuff to even know what those are.
That's true. That makes sense.
Yeah, that would explain a lot.
Mystery solved. Good job, everyone.
So let's talk about Bosco and what he's up to.
Good old Bosco.
Well, kind of. We've known Bosco up to this point to be a very disguisey gentleman, a very paranoid guy, but he would change up his store and try to sell you something every episode, and every episode he'd have a new theme to his disguise. It was always fun. This feels like a stark contrast because he is not playing games anymore. He's not in a disguise. He's just hanging out at his store, which is not a store anymore. He's converted it entirely to a fallout shelter. And he's just way past due on his whole paranoia thing. It took over his entire mind.
Yeah, I mean, he specifically says, I have like $100 trillion. I don't need to sell anything anymore.
Yeah, that's true. We've given him more money than exists in other places combined. Like, all other places combined in the world has less money than Bosco.
Yeah, I feel like he could have stopped being a store after like the first episode.
Yeah, and he's worried about the Illuminati. He could buy the Illuminati. Who would be part of it if not the richest person in the world?
Yeah, he basically is the most powerful person in the country now.
Yeah.
And look how he uses it.
just wastefully, just entirely wastefully. So he has a horseman doll in the mail. Who knows how he got that?
Yeah, he thinks it's a bomb from his mom.
Yeah, and you can send him a stopwatch from the North Pole, from Santa, and that'll tick, and he'll hear the ticking and think, oh, well, that's definitely a bomb. So then the other present must be fine. So he opens that, and it's the horseman, and you can just take it. So that's how you get one of the horsemen. I have no idea how these horsemen end up in the world.
Me neither. Maybe it's the same reason Mr. Spatula turned evil. Just some force put them out in the world.
Yeah, I could see that. One of them... So Stinky has another. Stinky is the diner that we've seen. We've seen Stinky's diner in the background the whole season 1, but we haven't been able to enter it. Now we can enter it.
I like that. I like that it adds a brand new location in your regular places you can stop in every episode.
Yeah, Stinky joins the lineup of Bosco and Sybil and Jimmy Two Teeth in terms of straight and narrow regulars. So
yeah, she's not nice. She's not a good person. She's mean.
Yeah, she's kind of the worst. So they draw flies circling around her to make it seem like she smells very, very bad. Sort of going with the theme of the restaurant being called Stinky's. But I've talked to you about this with other fictional characters before. I think without the flies, without the name, I would know she smells bad.
She just looks like someone who smells bad?
She looks like someone who smells bad to me. Do you remember the other person I talked to you about this with?
Oh, I don't. Remind me, who was it?
It was Palutena from Kid Icarus
right.
and Smash Bros. I think she smells
I don't know.
bad.
I don't know if I agree with you on that one, but I do agree with you on Stinky. But I think part of it, even if it's not just her, I think the overall vibe of the restaurant, they really sell it as like this. I don't want to say like cheap and run down, but kind of. It really feels like one of those restaurants that's maybe not taken the best care of.
Yeah, it's like a Denny's, but it's not the Denny's brand, so it's like a more rundown, less moneyed. It's less moneyed Denny's.
Yeah, it's Denny's if it were a personal restaurant, not a chain, so they have even less money to do like refurbishments and keep it clean and tidy.
Yeah, it gives me a lot of vibes straight out of Hit the Road.
Yeah, that's true. That never occurred to me, but I totally get it now.
I think the first season of Sam and Max, I like it a lot. I like the vibe that Telltale chose because it's probably my favorite vibe that Sam and Max has ever had, being a pastiche of film noir. But something else that's always been very prevalent in all of the other adaptations of Sam and Max is like Americana tourist trap trash. And that didn't really appear in Sam and Max Season 1. And now we're getting a little bit of it coming back with Stinky's Diner. So I like that.
A little bit
like
goes a long
that.
way.
Also in Stinky's Diner are Sybil and the head of the statue of Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
I almost said American
They've been hitting
Lincoln.
it off.
Yeah, they're just having a date. They're not having the best time, but that's due to external factors to their date. Otherwise, it seems like their relationship's going pretty well.
Yeah, it's Stinky. Stinky is the problem here.
Right. Also at the bar, or at his own table, is the Bug.
They get a lot of mileage out of this Bug. He shows up a lot. Not that I'm complaining, it's just interesting that he has become one of the most reoccurring characters in this entire series.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know why. Exactly.
I don't hate it. It does. I don't think the game is lesser because of it. It's just an interesting choice.
Yeah, I think there's something to the fact that his character model is just so small that of course you can put it in more places.
I was just about to say the exact same thing. It takes up less real estate, so it's just kind of easy to fit in if they need something.
I don't know who his voice actor is, but I would not be surprised if it just happens to be one of Sam and Max, like one of their voice actors as well. It's also him doing the Bug. So they just always have access to the Bug's voice, something like that.
That would make sense. Speaking of voice actors, one interesting one, our new best friend Girl Stinky is actually the voice of another Telltale character. Do you know which one?
Ooh. Have we covered it so far?
No.
Oh. Is it Elaine? From Monkey Island?
Wrong, and that was your only guess.
Okay, what is it?
Girl Stinky is the same voice as Clementine from The Walking Dead.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it's crazy. You wouldn't have been able to tell just by listening to her, but, like, I specifically remember looking up who did Clementine back when those games were coming out and being like, oh, no shit, she's Girl Stinky from Sam and Max.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I would never have guessed it.
I'm glad I only gave you the one guess then.
Yeah, I was going through the ones, like, well, most of the ones that I just associate with Telltale voices that we would both know of, we've already covered, because Strong Bad, I guess, feels very Telltale as well, but all of those voices are just the original Homestar cast. And
yeah.
I don't remember any characters from Wallace and Gromit. So I had to jump to Monkey Island. But yeah, interesting. That she's got a very distinctive voice. So I wonder if now when we get to Walking Dead, if we listen to her voice, we'll hear it at all. I kind of doubt it. She's really putting on airs here.
Yeah, she is not at all. She does not sound like Clementine when she's doing Stinky, but it is interesting because I would like
when she's.
We all know
Stinky.
that The Walking Dead. Hey. But we all know that The Walking Dead went on to be a big thing for Telltale, so it's interesting that probably the two games I most associate with Telltale, like probably their two biggest series I associate the name with. She is a character in both. There is that connection there.
Nice. You know why I think Stinky smells bad?
Is it because of all the like fish on her?
So it, yes and no. Like, so okay, the fish and the flies circling her. They're obviously she smells bad because of that. And also she gives you a sock later on in the episode, which is 100% only smelly people behavior. But I think if she didn't do any of that stuff, she would still seem smelly to me. And I think the reason is, it's whenever cartoon characters are drawn with teal to green hair, it's not on their own. It needs to be very long hair, and it needs to be sort of clumped together. Like, I could imagine that if I tried to separate her ponytail, it would be like webbed or something. She's just got a bunch of stinky bit in her hair. That's what her hair looks like to me. And I think that's a similar reason I feel that way about Palutena.
That's gross.
Yeah, it is gross. Also, another connection between Palutena and Stinky, they are both missing one sock.
That's true. I forgot about that.
That's a very specific connection.
You know what? Now that I think about it, I've never seen Palutena and Stinky in the same place at the same time.
That's so true. I bet, yeah, they're probably the same.
Nothing says they're not.
So Stinky, now I feel like I'm just calling her the adjective Stinky.
So Stinky over here.
So Stinky in the corner is doing a trivia thing. I love bar trivia. Do you ever do bar trivia?
No, I'm not good at trivia. I don't know a lot of things except for very specific things. However, my sister and her boyfriend do trivia.
Do they like go bar to bar to do it?
I think so. I mean, I haven't asked them the details, but it sounds like they do it pretty regularly.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I've been doing it at this local pub here where I am once a week for the last like 4 weeks. I've just been enjoying myself doing some questions. It's a fun thing.
That's interesting you say that, and it makes total sense because I feel like a lot of the time whenever we play Jackbox together, you are always the one who wants to do Trivia Murder Party. That's
true. I do like the trivia games a lot. Because I want to beat my friends rather than have a fun time with them. I want to make sure no one else is having a good time, and then I can have a good time.
If that's the case, then I'm the perfect person to play against.
Yeah, we should do it more often. And I think Stinky feels the same way, because she explicitly makes sure that she's not actually saying the right answer is the right answer. She's just saying whatever everyone else hasn't said is the correct answer in order to come out on top.
So, did you figure out the puzzle for this? Because I did it, but I wasn't 100% sure how it worked, but I had a guess.
I did figure out the puzzle for this, yeah.
Okay, explain to us what the puzzle is, and I'll tell you if it's what I thought too, because I thought I knew how to do it, and then the first way it didn't do it. But then the second time I got it,
So, the 3 people that are playing trivia already are the Bug, Sybil, and Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln doesn't know anything. He is the dumbest guy, apparently. Even though the first trivia question I got was about the War of 1812, Lincoln should know about that. That's pretty recent for him.
Well, it's been a long time, at least.
Has it, or has he been suspended? I thought he was like in a suspended state. Since...
Well, yeah, but maybe his memory is a little foggy after being in a suspended state for so long.
So the the idea here is each of them, you can figure out what they're going to say in advance, and then as long as you're the 4th person to submit your answer, if they've all covered the other answers, Stinky will tell each of them they're wrong, because Stinky just doesn't want to say they're right. And if you do the 4th remaining answer, she'll have to say that you're right, and she'll give you the horse, which is the prize. She says it's a family heirloom forever, so that already feels weird with like where the horses are coming from.
Yeah, it's possible they were just already out there in the world. It's possible that is a family heirloom, but that just happens to be one of the 4 horsemen you need for this puzzle.
Yeah, I don't know why they'd all be in this one city block, but they are. So yeah, sure, whatever. The way you get Sybil, you'll know what Sybil's gonna say because Sybil's actually correct. She knows all these answers. She knows all the questions. Probably because she's worked in every field of employment that you can be in. So she's
very knowledgeable.
Yeah, she just has a very wide swath of knowledge. So you can't change her answer. It's just whatever it's going to be. Then you talk to the bug, and the bug always gets it wrong, but the bug has a very specific answer that the bug's excited to say. So you just need to you need to tell the bug which one you're doing until you find out which one the bug is doing. So you need...
Interesting.
Like, maybe the bug will know that they're going to pick D ahead of time, which is not the correct answer. But if you say, I think we're going to pick A, and the bug will be like, no, you got to pick D! Pick D! And from that, you'll know that the bug is going to pick D. And then, whichever... So now you know 2 answers that they're going to pick. So you give Abraham Lincoln, you tell him one of the remaining 2 answers. And then there's only 1 answer left that none of the 3 of them are going to say, and that has to be your answer.
Okay, yeah, because, like I said, the first one, I did it wrong. I wasn't quite sure. I figured out that Abe will just say whatever you tell him. And then the other 2 I wasn't so sure on. The second time I did it, I just got lucky, I guess, because I only talked to the bug once. And he just happened to say the one I needed him to say. And then I got the right answer. The quote-unquote right answer.
Yeah, the bug...
So that is a much more clever puzzle than I thought at the time.
I like that the bug doesn't know anything and will get it wrong every time. Because even if you're guessing, you should get it wrong only 75% of the time with 4 answers.
But boy, he is having an off night when it comes to trivia.
Yeah, like every single question, he thought the answer or the question involved the word "not" when it didn't, or something like that. So that's how you get that horseman. Jimmy Two Teeth has another horseman. There's this robot doll you'll find at the North Pole, which is Boxing Betty. It's just a baby doll who's a boxing girl. Jimmy Two Teeth has taken up residence inside the Maintron 9000's broken carcass, where he set up a boxing ring. And you send in Boxing Betty, who works just like Punch-Out controls. It's Punch-Out. Even the song in the background is Jared Emerson Johnson totally doing a spoof of the Punch-Out theme song.
That's awesome. How do you feel about this whole boxing part of the game?
It's lame.
It is lame, but
it has the song and it's totally going for something. I like the fact that the rats have taken up residence inside a giant broken robot. That's a cool set thing, but the actual boxing minigame is sort of lame.
Yeah, it's not hard at all. It's like way easier than even regular Punch-Out. But I think the good parts about it elevate it for me, because like even if it's easy, I was still like, yeah, we're boxing. This is different from the rest of the game.
Yeah, I'm not good with Punch-Out. I've never been good at Punch-Out, so I think that was just some of the frustration for me. Even though this was
was it hard?
No, it wasn't hard. It was like the easiest version of Punch-Out that you could have.
Okay. The way you worded it, I thought like the reason you didn't like it was because you were struggling.
No, I wasn't struggling. I think the very first time I actually lost because I just didn't understand, like, if it's the left hand, I should move left rather than moving out of the way to the right. But
right.
Once that clicked, it was easy enough to do. I just I've just never like been good at Punch Out. I've never had the like reflex to do it in time. I don't know. Something about that specific gameplay mechanic is a little harder for me than I feel it is for every other person in the world.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Mitch, I won't hold it against you at all. I don't think any less of you for not being good at Punch Out.
Hey, thanks, buddy. This is why we do the podcast, folks. little moments of humanity where we forget to be mad at each other.
When Mitch was starting the podcast, he thought, who on this list of people will not judge me for being bad at Punch Out? And he went through the whole list until he got to me.
Yeah, every other person I considered for the podcast would have, like, I was going to have Little Mac on the podcast. He
couldn't reach the microphone.
Would have judged me for being bad at Punch Out.
He would have been like, wow, really?
Yeah. I was going to have Palatine on the podcast, but ew, stinky.
She would have made you smell, too. She would have been like, you smell that? Yeah, fuck you.
So you beat Jimmy Two Teeth and you get the horse. And the last horse is by our favorites, the cops.
I was so happy to see. I totally forgot that they have a role in season 2.
Yeah, they're great. They're in a garage east of Stinky, so you actually go pretty far to the east, further than you've ever been before, because it previously cut off on the east side of the street at Bosco's, but now Bosco's is pretty close to the leftmost side of the street.
Yeah, it goes from the office all the way down to the garage.
And the cops are now, in an effort to feel useful, which is sad and charming, trying to run an auto shop, an automobile repair shop. And they want a decal because the decal they've got in stock is one of the horsemen. Of course it is. Of course they have one. And so if you do them a favor and run over as many Torture Me Elmer dolls as you can, a clear pun on the Tickle Me Elmo craze of the late 90s, they hate these dolls. They have a thing about how Torture Me Elmer is selling out as a piece of antiquated technology.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part about it is that Torture Me Elmer is not in a position Elmer would enjoy.
Yeah.
Like they're mad at him for selling out. If Torture Me Elmer were a real person, he would not be enjoying this situation. He's being tortured.
Yeah, I would argue it's not his choice. But they want you to run over as many of those with your car as possible, and if you do it a certain number within a certain amount of time, you get the hood ornament. The I think that one is the Horseman of Death, sudden death hood ornament, and then that's all 4 hood ornaments. Or sorry, that's all 4 horses of the apocalypse. Now you can do that. But before we move on, you can do other things for the cops in that driving minigame that gets you decals on the car. And this was a big deal when the season first came out.
Really?
Do you remember why?
No, I don't. It's been so long. Explain.
So, the DeSoto can get stickers on it for doing certain things within the episode. In this episode, it's all about the driving minigame. So you can get, like, a bronze, silver, and gold version of the Torture Me Elmer dolls for, like, doing harder versions of that horseman thing. But then also other things like bowling a strike, because there's a bunch of bowling pins in the middle of the road for some reason. And then shooting a piano down, that's a piano that's hanging on the side of the street, or shooting a blimp down out of the sky. They all give you certain decals for the car. And depending on what your save file for this episode reads, like which decals you've got on your save file, they will still be there in the next episode. So if you didn't get all of them, you will not have all of them in the next episode. So if you want to, like, 100% an episode of Sam and Max Season 2, you need to 100% the previous episode of Sam and Max Season 2.
Okay, so I've been playing this. I've been playing the 360 version on the Xbox One, and so the only reason I went to get all the decals is because there is an achievement for it. You get an achievement for
Oh,
getting
nice.
every decal in the game. I didn't choose to figure it out myself. I just kind of looked up how to get them because I didn't have all day. I needed to get this done.
Sure.
But despite being such a simple game, I thought it was pretty fun. I think it's since you can make the DeSoto go so fast, you can speed up the car. You can speed up and slow down. But I didn't know this at first. I thought you could only go like super fast, and you can just plow through like everything and get all these tickle or torture me Elmer dolls. It's not hard. Like even on the hardest one where you have to get like 60 of them in 60 seconds, it's like so easy. I had like 20 seconds left.
Yeah.
By the time I did it. But it's just fun since you're going so fast.
Yeah, I remember at the time the idea that if I didn't get all the decals in an episode, I wouldn't be able to 100% the season. Almost stressed me out. It was almost a stressor.
Almost, I like.
Well, yeah, it didn't like ruin my mental state around the game.
At the end of the day, they're just stickers.
Yeah, they're just stickers on a car.
But still, you're kind of like, well, maybe I should just go ahead and get those stickers.
Yeah, maybe I should just put them on the damn car. Maybe I should just go ahead and do all of them every time. And I got myself in a frenzy about it. And I remember on the forums there were people feeling the same way, because like the first couple days the episodes would come out, there wasn't 100% knowledge that had spread out about like how to get all of the decals.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, people were just trying to figure out like, okay, well, the blimp. Oh, you gotta shoot the blimp. And then if you do get all the decals, thankfully, the cops will tell you, congratulations, you've gotten all of the decals this episode. And that's a nice thing to do. I hate it when games don't tell you you've done all the things.
Yeah, I was very relieved to hear that. Like, even though, since I just looked up how to do it, I knew that was the last one I needed, but I was still very relieved. I was like, oh, okay, this'll just let me know. So I feel like next episode, I'll just actually try to get them, since you'll know when you have.
Right.
Thanks, cops.
So if you bring the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse action figures, you set them up around the North Pole. Santa has a record player in the workshop, so you can put the record on there, and you fill in the parts of the song, the Fearsome Demon song, that correspond to what you think the demon's all about, which shouldn't be hard if you're looking around. You see a box full of gelatinous goo, and you assume that's where it came from. And then the demon comes out, and you think that you're exorcising Santa Claus. You're actually exorcising just one of the elves. They had the demon in them the whole time. They were fine.
Yeah, what a twist. Santa was actually trying to defend from the demon.
Yeah, I like Sam and Max's reaction to this, because they are surprised, but it's more like frustration. They're like, wait, no! That elf was fine! That elf was not being mean.
This was your standard garden variety elf.
This was a standard elf. It's a normal elf, but it wasn't, I guess. It was possessed the whole time. And you get the demon out of it, and then Santa comes out and says, wait, you did the exorcism, but you didn't have the spirits of Christmas, future, past, and present to take down the demon? And then you're like, you didn't know about any of that stuff because you didn't read the back of the instructions of the exorcism. Classic Sam and Max move.
Classic.
So Santa and the demon are fighting each other. They chase each other outside. If you look in Santa's safe, you'll find a bottle of Christmas spirits. If you uncork it, a past version, a present version, and a future version of Santa Claus will come out. And they'll require that you do some puzzles for them in order to have their power on your side.
Right. I like this a lot. I really like that this is a big part of the story that they can easily turn into gameplay segments. This is the part I think of when I was talking earlier about how this episode seemed a lot more story focused. Is
Yeah.
this specific part?
Yeah, I think it's this part that fans got excited about back in the day in terms of getting you excited for the rest of the season. As a first episode of the season, I think this is miles better than Culture Shock was last season because
Agreed.
Culture Shock didn't get you excited about the rest of the thing, which was maybe fine because you got the feeling that they were writing it by the seat of their pants.
Yeah, it worked totally fine as like the very first one they did. It was great. And even in our episode rankings, we still put it up above the other two in the first half.
Yeah.
So I would still consider Culture Shock a good start, but this is definitely a better start for a season.
Yeah, the first one I did was Christmas Future. Um,
I did too.
yeah,
Huh.
I think there's two ways you can leave the workshop. You can either go back up the chimney and then outside, and if you do that, the first one you're next to is Christmas Future, and that's what I did. But if you leave through the front door, the first one you're next to is Christmas Past. So I think you're actually supposed to do that because you're probably supposed to go past, present, future. But I did
Yes.
Future first.
I did Future first as well, just because I went from left to right.
Oh yeah, that makes sense too. Um, if you go to the future one, you're spat out in some hellmouth where you, Sam and Max from the future, are just stuck in the bottom of what looks like a volcano or portal to hell or something like that, just full of lava and magma and brimstone. And Sam and Max had just run out of snacks, so now they're starting to panic. And your job is to get them out of there. If you power up the Santa's sleigh from just outside the portal to the future, you can send the sleigh in there for future Sam and Max and save them that way. And that's the future puzzle. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's funny. I think it's funny watching Sam and Max watch themselves. Although there isn't that much to say since the only area they're in is just the one hellscape
Yeah.
area, the one platform in the lava. So there really isn't that much to say about it, at least not right now. It'll definitely be more interesting later on. But for right now, there just isn't that much to say about it.
Yeah, the question is, why are Sam and Max at the bottom of a volcano or in hell or wherever they are? Like, why would they be there? And I hope it's not too much of a spoiler to say we will find out by the end of the season. But that was the assumption as well. When the game came out, I remember that, like, people trying to figure out why they would be at the bottom of a volcano.
Yeah, right.
And it would happen by the end of the season. The thing is, with Sam and Max, though, they reference so many adventures that are completely off-screen that, like, there's no reason to assume we would definitely see why they're at the bottom of a volcano.
Yeah, it's likely, but it's not a guarantee.
Yeah. And I think that makes it more interesting. But it did end up happening, which was nice.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that what do you say we talk about that in 4 episodes?
I'll hold you to it, Mitch.
The Christmas present was something you did earlier this episode, where when you got the Horseman of Pestilence from Stinky, so you don't think anything happened, but some roaches came into the diner, and they were the Bug's family members, and you had to get them to leave.
He does not like his family.
Yeah, how do you get them to leave?
So what you need to do, I think the thing is the bugs mentioned being like scared of cleaning products or whatever, like the smell. They can smell things, like if you pull out your gun. So no one can see your Sam and Max's spirits when they go to different time periods. But I guess they can smell it. So like when Sam pulls his gun out, the bugs are like, "Oh, we smell gunpowder. Ah, reminds me of the war," or whatever. But right outside the portal to the present is a machine that purifies yellow snow.
This is a dumb idea. This is a dumb concept. So they bleach the yellow snow. So I guess technically there's no chemical trace of urine anymore, but now there's bleach in it. So where's the de-bleachinator machine that turns it back into something else?
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But the bug, the bug is having some PTSD where they will just regurgitate some of the recordings they've heard when they smell something that associates the memory with it for them. So
right,
you put the bleach snowball next to the bug and they will smell the cleaning products, and then they'll say some weird stuff that gets their family to leave. And it's great, and that's how you solve family problems.
Yeah, I like that Sam thinks you're supposed to make the bug realize he loves his family and that family is important, but then Santa's like, no, these guys suck, get rid of them.
Yeah, Santa was very for real about that one. So then you go back to the North Pole, and the Christmas past was from last season. Something that was not advertised as being during Christmas when we did it last season.
Yeah, I love that it has nothing to do with Christmas, but here we are.
Yeah. It's when you're interrogating Leonard Steak-Charmer.
Well, wait. When did that episode come out? When did episode 3 of season 1 come out?
Let's find out. We can...
Maybe it was around Christmas.
3, Sam and Max. The mole, the mob, and the meatball. It came out January 25th of 2007 on GameTap.
Okay, so they had missed Christmas by then anyway.
Exactly 1 month after Christmas.
Okay.
But it was probably the closest episode to Christmas out of all the season 1 episodes.
Yeah, it was probably written around Christmas.
Yeah.
So I'll count it.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, that's Christmas. When you're finding
Merry
the
Christmas,
meatball
Leonard
sub for the
Steak-Charmer.
mob, now you need to know that was Christmas.
It brought everyone together. God bless us, everyone.
So, just after the whole thing with Leonard Steak-Charmer, it turns out that you taking the boxing glove from the office at that point prohibited Jimmy Two Teeth from his only legitimate business venture he had, which was trying to become a professional boxer. What do you? I've got thoughts on this. What do you think about this?
I also have thoughts on this, and I believe we're going to have similar thoughts. So you meet Jimmy's family here for the first time, his lovely wife, and his little son, little Timmy Two Teeth. And the thing about little Timmy Two Teeth is he has Tourette's. That's his thing.
Yeah.
So I am of two sides about this. So when the scene started and they were like, "Oh, little Timmy, he has Tourette's. Isn't it funny how he's swearing and it's bleeped out?" And it's like, "Huh, yeah, that's great." It's not really great. It's kind of an odd joke to make, but I think the thing that turned it around for me is the fact that it's treated as it's treated like Tiny Tim in Christmas Carol. That's why he's called Tiny Timmy. And the fact that they treat his Tourette's like a Tiny Tim scenario, that made it funnier than the joke is just that he has Tourette's and swears a lot.
Yeah, so they say they're going to operate on his Tourette's.
Yeah.
I don't know. I should put just my lack of knowledge on the table. I know some brain stuff. I don't know this brain stuff. I don't know what you would do. I don't know what the operation would be. I don't know if you can do an operation on Tourette's other than like calming some symptoms down.
Yeah, see, the thing I took out of it, I just took it out took it as like a gag, like they would perform an operation on someone who's actually sick.
Yeah. But I mean, he is sick.
Rather than like
it's just
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when I said I had thoughts, this is actually not the thing, but this is very interesting too. Yeah, like the joke of him swearing a lot because of Tourette's just doesn't land for me. That's
not really.
That is not funny.
It's not. Yeah, it's kind of like, well, not really something you would joke about in modern times. But I think the way they do a joke on top of that lands for me, rather than the Tourette's being the joke itself.
Well, I can't find out. I can't determine if they're actually joking about the prospect of operating on Tourette's, or if they think that is possibly a thing you can do. It feels so not. It feels so underinformed that I don't know where their intentions lie on that.
Yeah, see, that's just how it reads to me. I could be totally wrong. It's interesting that this has happened a few times in Sam and Max. To me, it just reads is in like Tourette's is not a big deal, but we're gonna treat it like it's this big Christmas Carol-esque thing.
Yeah, Tourette's is a big deal.
Yeah.
So I guess it doesn't. I'll just say it doesn't work. I just don't think the joke works. But what I actually was thinking of was the fact that they were trying to spin this little tableau. They have Jimmy talking with his wife, and Jimmy says, "I keep trying to do these legitimate business ventures, but Sam and Max always shut me down." And I think you, the audience, are supposed to feel like, oh, have we been doing that the whole time? But also, no. You haven't been doing legitimate business ventures the whole time. We haven't been shutting you down. Like, you have not been legit. You have not been a legitimate character. You're totally full of shit right now.
Yeah, and he's been a jerk to us, like, every single time.
Yeah, the season 1 starts with him stealing his phone for no reason.
Yeah, there's no benefit to that for his family.
Yeah, you give him the cheese, and like he could have had the cheese already. It's in the closet, but he only wanted Swiss cheese. So like it's not even a legitimate business venture thing. It's just you're just saying stuff, Jimmy. You're not being legit. Yeah.
I like that all three of the Two Teeth family members just are all like the same voice, just like slightly changed.
That is good. So what you can do is take his wife Mary from this like dream dimension of the past, bring it to current Jimmy Two Teeth, who's about to kill himself, and then sort of trade his wife for the boxing glove he has, then give the boxing glove to past Jimmy Two Teeth so he can be trained to become a boxer.
This is all total. My mind is going in circles just from you saying that.
Yeah, it does. I think it doesn't make sense. I think it makes
it doesn't make sense, but it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense in a on purpose funny way rather than just a plot thing they did that tried to make sense and didn't.
Yeah.
The joke is that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So
I love that you take Jimmy's wife with the world's simplest maze.
Yeah, you another toy that you get from Santa's workshop is the world's simplest maze. You just put that on the outside of their rat hole, and when they come out, the wife just like walks in a little circle, and then she has no idea how to get out.
She hits the one wall, and she's like, "Oh shit, I'm stuck."
Yeah, I've tried nothing, and I'm all out of ideas. And that's how you get her. So then you go back to the present, having solved that scenario, and you have the power of all three Christmas spirits on your person. You use that against the demon, and the demon turns into a bowl full of jelly, or like Jello. And everything seems fine. Sam and Max go home. Santa says, "Oh, thank you, Sam and Max. You've done a great job here this year." You think that for some reason Sam and Max are about to be considered nice by Santa Claus, which does not feel right. But it seems to be working out. But then Santa, with the with the object permanence of a 1-year-old, just immediately eats the Jell-O.
What have we here?
Yeah, what have we here? Jell-O, huh? And he eats the demon, and it's all inside of him. I have a note here that Santa instantly ate so much of the Jell-O.
Yeah, he just eats all of it, all in one go.
Yeah, like the Sam and Max turn around, and the whole thing is gone. It was a huge bowl of Jell-O, and it was just instantly all eaten. And then
that's Santa for you.
They go back in the workshop, and there's a Rube Goldberg machine involving a cannon and like a toy plane. It's a whole thing. You just do a bunch of stuff to shoot something at Santa Claus, and then you shoot him into a box. And then the soda poppers come in and say, well, there was an error on the shipping label. It said, to Santa. It should have said, to Satan. That's who you give demons. And everyone was like, oh!
What a silly mix-up.
Yeah. And then that's the end of the episode.
How do you feel about this final showdown with Santa Claus?
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I was just thinking just now how much easier it was than the puzzle in the first episode, which also isn't like that hard, but it takes some thinking. This one I feel like I got like almost right away.
Yeah, I thought that this episode it could have ended on the using the spirits against the demon.
Right? I felt exactly the same way.
I guess you need that little extra because that would have ended with Santa in a good place, and unfortunately, we are now sending Santa Claus to Satan.
Yeah.
So that's something we've got to think about in the future. And then Sam and Max, because Santa Claus is in the box, Sam and Max have to deliver all the presents. And they're like, how are we going to do this all in one night? And Max goes, dude, chill out. It's November.
Yeah, it's like they set it up like a big Christmas special. I'll wrap the gifts. I'll do the labels. But who can deliver all these toys in one night? And they look at Sam and Max, and then they just leave without the toys.
Yeah, they get excited to do it, and then they leave without any of the tools needed to do it.
But it's okay, because it's only November.
Yeah,
I think
great.
even if that I feel like even if that showdown isn't like the best puzzle to end on, I feel like it ends on a very good joke. So
there's, I won't say it explicitly because there might be some people that are playing along with us, but they hint at what the twist later in the season is going to be with that box. And I think it's too much of a hint. I think it straight up gives it away.
I kind of agree. They don't really tell you that this is what's going to happen later, though. It doesn't tell you like, oh, you're going to be seeing Satan later. I think it's possible that someone could see this scene and just be like, oh, what a funny joke. I get it, because Santa and Satan sound similar.
Well, it's not the fact that they're sending it to Satan. It's that the original label said to Santa from Lower Manitoba. So that's what sent Santa the demon originally. It was from Lower Manitoba, which if you look at a map, you'll see that Manitoba is a Canadian province just north of something in America. And once you know what that is, it makes the mystery of who sent Santa a demon real simple. It just makes it completely obvious.
Don't look it up, listeners.
Yeah, don't look it up if you don't want to, but if you happen to like know it, if you just know where Manitoba is, then that will just become, you'll just know it.
Yeah, these guys get it.
Yeah, I feel like Telltale thought they were being 7 degrees sneakier than they were being.
Yeah.
It's too literal.
Yeah, I mean, these are the people who also used Roy G. Biv as the code name for their villain for the first season. So
Yeah. Yeah, who is this color-based gentleman? The soda poppers, I don't like. I think we're still, we haven't crossed the threshold of like to not like, or just I just don't like them. We haven't crossed that line yet, but I feel myself approaching it with the soda poppers. They're becoming more annoying every episode.
That's why I love the soda poppers. Sometimes you have those characters. I think I even talked about this in the first episode, how certain characters are just there for you to hate.
Yeah.
And I love that I hate the soda poppers.
Well, speaking of things that we hate, why don't we talk about things that we like in this week's segments?
Wow.
Should I have segment music?
Segment music. It's a segment time. Is that good?
Yeah, no.
Cool.
I don't know. I'll use it. Let's see what happens.
We'll workshop it.
Yeah. Okay. So segment number 1 is, we're bringing it back, friends. Linguistic gymnastics.
Woo!
That's our wonderfully named segment in which we talk about our favorite lines, dialogue lines from this episode. Dustin, what you got? You told me that you have a bunch.
I do have a bunch. I'm gonna narrow it down to just a few.
Okay.
So my first one, this is the line of the episode that stuck with me more than any other line. Like, this was the line in the episode I remembered to this day before replaying it. So it's when you're singing the Friendly Demon song, and you know how there's like parts where you interject in. So the Friendly Demon song is a parody of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and there's parts where you interject like a light bulb. And that's where you interject the details, like, hey, shambling corporate presence. But one of my favorites is, it says, he was the most unholy creature that was ever born. And then it gives you, like, different locations to pick from. But for one of them, Sam says, at the corner of Bellum and Anderson, near that one taqueria that I think uses way too much cilantro, though Max disagrees. That's the line that stuck with me ever since I first played it. I was like, that's funny.
That is good. I think 2007 was the height of cilantro jokes.
That's true. I can't think of a more cilantro-esque year.
Yeah, I think it's always under the surface of the comedy ocean, talking about cilantro and how some people just think it tastes like soap. It's there. We know it. But I remember it coming up more as a thing to make fun of, as a food to make fun of.
Yeah. But okay, so my next line, oh man, I'm struggling to narrow it down, but so my next one is when you get the horseman of pestilence from Stinky's diner, and Sam says, "Ah, see how he slumps in his saddle?"
Yeah.
And my next one is when you're doing the Spirits of Christmas, and you're looking at the gate of Christmas Future, and Sam says, "I'm guessing this leads to some dystopian future Christmas." And Max says, "You say that about everything." And Sam says, "But this time I'm right."
That's good.
Okay, I'll keep it down to those 3. Why don't you hit me with yours?
I liked What's the Rush? It's the middle of November from Max at the very end of the episode. Just the reveal that it hasn't been Christmas the whole time.
That's true.
Okay, so at one point, if you use just the gun on the shambling corporate presence, you can shoot it, but it doesn't do anything. And Sam says that it goes through him like a bowl full of jelly, or like his big belly, like a bowl full of jelly. Wait, no. Sorry, I messed it up. Sam says it just goes through his big belly, and Max says like a latex glove full of jelly. And then Sam just looks at him and says, "Bull, idiot." Like, why would you say latex glove? I like that. I don't know why that joke's in there. It's not actually good. It's just the fact that it's one of those lines that makes you realize, like, oh, these two people really are really good friends with each other.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a trampoline in the workshop, and Max says, "Ooh, can I jump on the trampoline?" And Sam says, "We have better things to do than to jump around on a trampoline." And Max says, "Do we really?" And then Sam says, "No." And then Max jumps up and down like 4 times, and then he gets off, and then Max says, "Yeah, we have better things to do than to jump around on a trampoline." Which is my reaction every time there's a trampoline. I'll think it's like, oh, yeah, I want to go on a trampoline for like 4 jumps, and then I'm like, yeah.
All right.
Just a trampoline,
on.
Huh? And let's see. Do I have anything else?
I have 2 more if you don't say them. I wanted to hold back because I didn't want to take any lines you would say, but I have 2 more I really want to say, but I'm gonna wait and see.
So when you can throw the snowball at Whizzer, and Sam says, "Hey Whizzer, please forgive us for what we're about to do." And then Whizzer goes, "Aw, crap, you guys are gonna kill me, aren't you?" I liked that. I thought that was funny.
Poor Whizzer. It's always Whizzer who gets the brunt of it.
Yeah.
He's definitely the punching bag of the soda poppers.
Yeah, he deserves it. They all deserve it.
That's true.
They just kind of suck. But yeah, what are you? I'm listening to the judges right now. Okay, so they say you got 2 more lines.
I got 2 more. Thank you, judges. So this one actually involves the soda poppers. It's when you first meet them and they're telling you how Santa gave them bad gifts. I don't remember Whizzer or Speck's gifts, but Sam asks Peepers, "What did you get?" And Peepers goes, "Tuberculosis!"
Yeah. Yeah.
And then poor Peepers. Like, I was just saying that Whizzer got what was coming to him, but Peepers got tuberculosis. That's not a good Christmas gift.
No, it's down there on my list.
And then my next one is so you're talking to Bosco, and Sam's wondering, why is he not wearing a disguise this time? He's like, "Bosco, you're always wearing disguises. Why aren't you this time?" And Bosco says, Sam, you poor naive fool. Don't you realize the time for disguises is past?" And then Max says, "Yeah, you poor naive fool. Don't you realize that?"
That's good.
Yeah, those are my linguistic gymnastics for this week.
I'm glad you picked up on those, because I don't know. When the whole episode has good writing, I sort of become blind to specific good lines a little bit. And this episode does have consistently pretty good writing.
Yeah, we were talking about it before the show. You were saying you didn't have that many. I had a bunch. Like, even just those 5 that I said, I left out like 3 or 4 other ones I had written down that I thought were really funny.
Yeah, it's not that I didn't consistently find funny things in the episode. It's just that I didn't think of them as standouts, because I think the whole thing was just such a high quality of writing. Probably the highest quality writing in a single episode thus far that we've covered on the podcast.
I totally agree. I feel like it's a very strong season opener.
So let's head into our second segment, Potent Pickups. I'll tell you mine first, Dustin. My favorite inventory item from this episode of Sam and Max was the world's easiest maze.
It's such a good joke.
Yeah, it's a one joke thing. Usually I try to find items that are mechanically interesting, and this is not that. This is just like a lock and key puzzle. It's just you use it once and then you lose it. But just watching Mary Two Teeth just walk out of the hole and into the maze and just into a wall is so funny.
And that's it. She calls it after the one turn.
Yeah, she won't even retrace her steps. It's just she's totally messed up. So what would you say is your favorite potent pickup from this episode?
So my potent pickup this week is the boxing Betty doll, because
sure, yeah.
You get to do the punch out thing, which isn't like the best, but I think the concept of it is very fun. And it's also just a hideous design. It's horrible to look at. It's got like knocked out teeth. It has a glass eye. Half the hair is ripped out. It's very interesting. But also, I like that it has its own animations during the boxing part. Like, it has its victory cheers and everything. So I think of the toys, it was probably the most memorable one.
Yeah, I would say so as well. And let's head into our last segment. We're bringing it back from the Bone episodes, because we think we can probably just do this every week. The Weekly Guy!
The Weekly Guy.
Yeah, we had a lot of names for this segment, and none of them stuck, except The Weekly Guy in my head, so... Oops.
It's just because it's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Which one is yours?
So, I feel a little shitty about mine this week, because even though I love the character I'm going to pick, they're not tied to this episode in particular. Like, I thought maybe it could have been Santa, but I'm going to go with the cops this week, just because I was so happy to see them. I was so happy to see the cops. I liked their car game, and they give you decals just out of the kindness of their own heart. They give you these decals and let you play this game. You don't have to do anything for them. I mean, you have to beat their challenges to get the decals, but still. And I was just so happy to see. I totally forgot that they were even in this episode. So it's not a great answer since it's not tied specifically to this episode, but I was the happiest to see the cops show up.
No, I think that's a fine answer. I don't think it needs to be tied specifically to this episode if they had a good showing.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of characters in this episode you could pick from, like Santa, Stinky, but I feel like none of them brought me the same joy as seeing the cops.
So this week I have a runner-up. My runner-up is nice. Elf that you convince does not exist. I like them a lot because not only is it the convincing them they don't exist, they have a whole other thing that they go through, where at the beginning of their conversation with that elf, you say, "So where are you from?" And the elf says, "I just got off the factory." And then Sam and Max goes, they make elves at factories? And the elf goes, No. I was just working on the factory. I was transferred here. And then Sam and Max say, "Oh, okay. What do you make?" And he said, "Oh, the factory makes elves." I should have written that down for linguistic gymnastics, but I didn't have all of the different lines. It went by too fast. So that elf is a good character. Almost my weekly guy. But my weekly guy is Girl Stinky.
Despite the fact that you think she smells so bad, you put her as the weekly guy.
Well, I think you're allowed to smell bad.
Shit. You know what? I have a runner-up too.
Okay.
I'll say
go for it.
After yours. No, after yours. Go ahead and talk about Girl Stinky.
I thought she made a strong first impression in the same way that Bosco and Sybil did last season as a mainstay on the street. You could totally imagine her doing some bullshit later on in the season, and I love the way that she like her method of trying to seem smarter than everyone else in the bar is so silly and stupid that I just like it a lot.
Just saying that everyone else is wrong.
Yeah. Like, that answer? Right. Actually, no. And I don't fault you for that.
Sorry.
I thought she made a strong first impression.
Yeah, one thing I like about Stinky is, unlike Sybil and Bosco, she is not your friend. She is mean and bad.
No.
Sybil and Bosco, I think, are usually, they're, even if they're not, like, happy to see Sam and Max, well, I'd say Sybil is always happy to see Sam and Max. Bosco is usually more on the fence, but he's still, he helps you out.
I think the fact that Bosco even talks to you is a really high bar of praise.
That's true. He does not talk to a lot of people. The fact that you at least have some sort of trust from him. But it's nice that of these characters you can see every week, you have one that's more adversarial.
Sure, yeah.
I like that they're not necessarily all on Sam and Max's side.
So who's your runner-up?
My runner-up, I totally forgot because we never mentioned him once in this whole episode, but then I looked back at the beginning of my notes. Flint Paper we meet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Flint Paper.
Yeah, so Flint Paper is the private eye next door to Sam and Max. If I remember right, they allude to him in Hit the Road. So he's a character from Sam and Max, the series, probably the only other character besides Sam. If I remember right, I could be totally wrong and they made up Flint Paper, but if I remember right, Flint Paper was a character from like the comics and Hit the Road.
Yeah.
I don't think you see him in Hit the Road, but it's cool that
you see him throw someone through his office door in Hit the Road.
Yeah, that's right. So it's cool that you see someone from the broader Sam and Max series make their debut in the games. This is kind of the first character besides Sam and Max themselves to do that.
Yeah, I liked seeing Flint Paper, but I also just thought that at this point,
he's not important. He
doesn't do anything in the episode.
Yeah, you just talk to him, but honestly, he probably wouldn't even be my runner-up, but I made him my runner-up just so we could talk about him.
Yeah, every time you're talking to him, the whole length of the episode, you can go back in your office and talk to him through a hole in your wall, and he's just beating up the same one guy.
I kind of like that, though. I like that there's this guy you can talk to who's not necessarily part of the story, but he is part of Sam and Max's lives. And it turns out the reason you didn't see him in all of season 1 was because he just happened to be on adventures that were like the exact parallel to the ones you did.
So I think that's going to be the show.
I thought this was a pretty good show. We went on for a long time. This was a long episode.
Yeah, I don't want to toot our own horns so much, but I think we really gave you something, listener. I think we gave you a part of our hearts.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
We're going to need that part of our hearts back after, though.
Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa.
Yeah. All of them. All of the holidays. Have a happy Halloween.
St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, let's just knock all of them out right now.
Okay, so there's
just
Easter.
Happy all of them.
Labor Day.
Grandfather's Day.
Sure, you can get Passover.
There's your niece's quinceañera.
Sure. Yeah, you can have just a quiet day.
Yeah. April Fools there is.
Yeah, there's that. There's Arbor Day. This is funny.
Yeah.
This is a funny part of the podcast.
How many? I have a whole 3-page list of holidays we can go through.
Yeah. Let's not.
Okay.
Where can people find you, Dustin?
They can find me at the same place they've always been able to find me, on Twitter and Instagram at AmazingDJDustin. But where can they find you, Mitch?
Well, they can find me on Twitter at the WolfeFM. That's @ TtT010. And until next time, where we'll be playing episode 2 of Sam and Max Beyond Time and Space, we'll see you around.
And God bless us, everyone. Because it's like Christmas.
Yeah. Good.